You know what nobody wants to say out loud? Everyone's staring at the Senate like it's the whole ball game, and meanwhile, the real action is happening one floor down, in the House, where Speaker Johnson is working with a margin so thin you could fold it into a napkin. Republicans hold 218 seats. The Democrats need three. 3 seats, and Hakeem Jeffries picks up the gavel.
And the map just got scrambled.
Completely scrambled. April 29th, the Supreme Court drops a Louisiana v. Callais ruling, a 6-3 Alito opinion that effectively guts Section 2 of the Voting Rights Act, and states treated it like a starter's pistol.
Florida, Tennessee, Alabama, all moving within days. The Hill called it roiling the 2026 midterms, and that's not an understatement.
That's generous, actually. We'll walk through the state-by-state fallout. DeSantis targeting 4 Democratic incumbents, Tennessee cracking Memphis across 3 rural districts, the potential GOP seat gains, and the legal chaos still trailing every one of those maps.
And we're going to get into the core debate, whether redrawn maps can actually stop a wave election. Race to the WH had Republican House odds jump from 18.9 to 27.2% after the new maps, but Democrats are still around 73% favorites.
Which is the question worth asking. Does a map change the math when the environment is moving against you?
2018 had an answer for that, 41 seats.
It did, and we'll get to that argument.
Plus, the retirement numbers, 36 Republican incumbents walking out the door. Ballotpedia says that's a single-party record. Open seats are where majorities actually break.
All of that starting right now. The House is where power moves in 2026. First stop, the ruling that started everything.
Before we get into it, a quick reminder, we love hearing from you. If you have questions or topics you'd like us to cover, head to the link in the description and submit your question. We read every single one. We've been watching The Wrong Race. This show, half of talk radio, every Senate obsessive with their color-coded map, all of us have had our eyes on Senate seats while the real power play is happening in the House. And I mean right now, today, in state legislatures that most people couldn't name if you spotted them 3 letters.
The math is unforgiving. According to Ballotpedia, Republicans currently hold a 218-214 House majority with 3 vacancies. That's a 2-seat working buffer. Democrats flip 3 districts, just 3, and Hakeem Jeffries picks up the gavel from Speaker Johnson.
3 seats. I want that to land. 3. That's not a wave, that's a weather event. A bad Tuesday in 4 swing districts and the entire legislative agenda flips. I'm calling this thing what it is, the Gavel Watch. That's what we're running all episode, the Gavel Watch.
And redistricting just made it more volatile, not less. 10 states redrew maps for 2026. Sabato's crystal ball reported Republicans netted an expected gain of around 6 seats from redistricting, but simultaneously said the map still isn't red enough to protect them from a bad political environment.
So they drew themselves a better map and might still lose the House. That's the Republican Party in a sentence.
I wouldn't go that far.
No, but here's what actually scrambled everything. April 29th, the Supreme Court drops Louisiana versus Callais, a 6-3 ruling that effectively kneecaps Section 2 of the Voting Rights Act, the legal guardrail that protected majority-minority districts for decades, gone. And the day the ruling landed, Florida passed a new redistricting bill. Tennessee eliminated its only majority-minority House district. Alabama filed emergency motions to reinstate legislature-drawn maps.
Brookings flagged it directly. Before Callais, the trajectory was trending towards a Democratic wave. That ruling changed the math in southern states almost immediately.
So the Senate obsession was always a distraction. The House is where the country actually gets governed. And right now, one court ruling just reshuffled the entire board. The question is, what does that ruling actually do to the constitutional framework underneath all of this? So let's talk about what Callais actually did, because the legal mechanics matter. April 29th, Justice Alito writes a 6-3 opinion that essentially catches Section 2 of the Voting Rights Act in a trap of its own making.
Right, and the trap is interesting from a constitutional standpoint. Louisiana drew a second majority black district because a federal court told them Section 2 required it. Then, a separate court said, wait, drawing that district with race as the dominant factor is an unconstitutional racial gerrymander.
Louisiana got sued not to have the district, then sued to have it. The lawyers ate well either way.
They did, but here's where I'll give the majority some credit before I say why this still feels messy. The tension between Section 2 and the Equal Protection Clause was real. Courts were genuinely pulling in opposite directions. Alito didn't invent that problem.
Agreed. The Gingles framework, that's the 1986 test for proving minority vote dilution, had gotten stretched in ways that were hard to defend on first principles.
Right, but what Callais does now is raise the evidentiary bar so high that plaintiffs essentially have to prove intentional discrimination to win a Section 2 claim. Justice Kagan called it all but a dead letter in dissent. That's not hyperbole.
And that's the thing that matters for this episode, because the Brennan Center noted the court reworked the 40-year-old Gingles standard, 3 changes stacked together, and the states read that ruling like a starter's pistol.
Florida passed a new map the same day the decision dropped. Tennessee moved within days. Alabama filed an emergency petition to reinstate maps a federal court had already thrown out.
Within hours, not weeks, hours.
And Louisiana, the state the whole case was named after, suspended its own primaries outright. Over 100,000 people had already cast early votes.
Over an ongoing election. That's where the legal story crashes into the real world. And that's exactly where we're going next. So, Florida went first and went hard. DeSantis signed a new map targeting 4 Democratic incumbents: Castor, Soto, Moskowitz, Wasserman Schultz. 4 seats.
Wow.
Gone. Just like that.
That's the Hill's reporting from April 29th. 4 Democratic-held districts flipped to Republican-leaning on paper. The question is whether the math actually holds.
And that's a fair question, Reagan. Deadpan. Because one redistricting expert at the University of Florida called it a +2 or +3 map if the political environment stays ugly for Republicans. Could even backfire.
The dummy-mander risk is real. Pack your margins too thin and a wave wipes you out.
Jeffrey's already called it that. Out loud. On camera.
Bold.
Now, Tennessee, that's where it gets dark. Governor Bill Lee called a special session. They cracked Memphis, the state's only majority black district, across 3 separate rural districts. 3. Steve Cohen's seat, gone.
And they had to repeal a 50-year-old state law just to do it. Tennessee had barred mid-decade redistricting since 1972. They erased that prohibition in the same session.
3 days. They flipped 50 years of state law in 3 days.
Look, I get why Republicans see this as a legal opening after Callais, but cracking a majority black city into rural white districts that stretch hundreds of miles east, that's not a clean partisan argument. That's harder to defend on the merits.
And here's something worth noting. The ACLU, the NAACP, multiple lawsuits already filed. Courts are going to be sorting this out well past November.
Which raises the question, how many of these seats are really locked in versus how many are just legal chaos waiting to happen?
Alabama, Louisiana, Arkansas, South Carolina, all moving too. The total potential Republican gain from all of this redistricting, up to 19 new Republican-leaning seats if it all holds.
Big if.
Big if. But, and this is what Democrats don't want to admit, they weren't exactly sitting on their hands either. California, Virginia, Utah, which is a story for about 30 seconds from now.
Both sides sat in that courtroom acting horrified, scandalized.
Both parties discovered gerrymandering simultaneously. What a coincidence.
Right. This is the part where Republicans pretend Democrats invented it, and Democrats pretend Republicans are uniquely evil for doing it, both with straight faces.
The Hill quoted Senator Jim Banks, Indiana Republican, saying, "If both sides are doing it, you kind of have an arms race," which is the most honest thing anyone said about this.
arms race. That is exactly right. California voters approved maps targeting 5 Republican districts. Virginia passed a Democrat-friendly map. Then the state Supreme Court threw it out post-Callais.
So Utah got a court-ordered Democratic district in Salt Lake County. So yes, both parties are at the table.
And you know what nobody wants to say? The Supreme Court greenlit all of this back in 2019. Rucho versus Common Cause, 5-4. Roberts writing that partisan gerrymandering claims are non-judiciable. Federal courts cannot touch it.
Which means Congress could have fixed it. They didn't, so we got this.
Shocked. Absolutely shocked.
The arms race was constitutionally authorized 7 years ago, Rush. Nobody's inventing anything.
Reagan, I would like to schedule a fake press conference. Both party leaders at the podium, outraged, somber, demanding the other side stop the thing they started.
I'd watch that.
I'd run it on a loop. Look, the comedy is real, but so is the question underneath it. More than a quarter of all congressional districts have already been redrawn mid-decade. Does any of that actually change who controls the chamber?
That's the thing. Maps can shift individual seats. Whether they can stop a national wave is a completely different argument.
And that's where we're going.
So, the maps moved the number. Race to the WHO had Republicans at 18.9% odds of holding the House before Florida, Tennessee, and Virginia. After those new maps, 27.2%. That's real movement.
It's real, but Rush, Democrats are still sitting at roughly 73%, and that gap doesn't close by drawing lines.
You sound confident.
I am, actually. Look, political scientists have pointed out for years that packing minority voters into fewer districts often helped Republicans in the South by bleeding Democratic votes out of the surrounding seats. Break those packs up, and some of those surrounding districts get more competitive, not less.
Wait, you're saying the strategy could backfire?
In some cases, yeah, the counterintuitive outcome is real.
I'll give you that. That's a real wrinkle.
But here's the bigger point. A wave is a wave. In 2018, Democrats gained 41 seats.
Wow.
41. No map in any single cycle was going to stop that.
Okay, but is 2026 a 2018? Trump's approval's underwater, sure. Negative 21 net. Special elections have broken Democratic, but the Brookings analysis said it themselves. Redistricting altered the outlook. That's not nothing.
It buys seats at the margins. If Democrats need 3 seats and the environment gives them 15, the margins don't matter.
And if the environment gives them 4?
Then yeah, every redrawn district counts. That's the real bet Republicans are making.
Which is why the map matters, not as a wall, but as a tiebreaker in a close race. If 2026 is a 6-seat Democratic environment, Republicans maybe hold. If it's a 20-seat wave, no map survives.
Right, and right now, nobody actually knows which one it is.
Nobody does, but I'll tell you what we do know. The number of seats separating a Republican majority from a Democratic House is razor thin, and the seat math on that, we're going there next. So here's the math that should be keeping Speaker Johnson up at night. Democrats need 3. 3. Republicans can lose no more than 2.
And with 36 House Republicans having announced retirement, more than the 34 who walked in 2018, the cycle Democrats flipped the chamber, that open seat vulnerability is real. The Hill reported it's already a record for single-party departures.
That number keeps me up, 36. And what gets me is the pattern. In 2018, Republicans lost 41 seats after that exact retirement pace. History doesn't repeat, but it rhymes loudly.
Open seats flip at historically higher rates than challenged incumbents. No name recognition advantage, no franking mail, no constituent service record. You're starting at 0 against a fired-up challenger.
Nothing like handing your opponent a blank canvas in a blue year.
And Cook Political Report is tracking 37 Republican open seats right now. Even if most are safe, a handful are genuinely competitive. Nebraska 2, Don Bacon's old seat, is right there in Cook's toss-up column.
Arizona 1, open after Schweikert ran for governor. Colorado 8, Gabe Evans defending in a seat that nearly flipped in 2022. Pennsylvania 7, Pennsylvania 10. These are live races.
And that's before you factor in that Decision Desk put around 45 seats total in the genuine competitive zone. Roughly 1 in 10 districts decides who runs this country.
Let me land this. The Senate is where the cable chirons live, but the gavel, the agenda, the budget, the committee chairs, that's the House. I'm holding the majority right now with a margin thinner than a single news cycle. 3 seats, 2 losses max, 36 vacancies on my side of the aisle.
And the maps we've been talking about all hour, they help at the margins. But this many open seats in this environment?
Is exactly why the redistricting math doesn't close the deal on its own. The bodies still have to show up in November. So where does this all land for November? Alabama's new map, the one that stripped out the majority black district, cleared a Supreme Court emergency order on June 2nd. Florida's map survived the Florida Supreme Court on June 10th. These things are moving fast.
And yet, the litigation isn't done. Florida still has an active appellate challenge under the Fair Districts Amendment. Alabama's map faces ongoing suits. A federal court could still move before November. Nothing is settled.
Which is the honest read. You watch the map, you also watch the docket. Both matter.
States that couldn't finish redistricting in time for 2026 primaries, some still under court-ordered maps, retain the option to redraw for 2028. The Callais fallout doesn't end in November.
Right. This goes beyond one cycle, which brings me back to the thing I said at the top of this show.
The Senate obsession.
The Senate obsession. Everyone's running Senate polls like that's where the country's decided. But Reagan, the House controls the budget. The House controls every committee gavel. You want to know who actually runs Washington in 2027? Watch the House map.
The math is brutal for Republicans. 3 seats, that's Democrats' number. Open seats from 36 retirements, active litigation on the maps they were counting on, that's not a comfortable position.
No margin. None. And you know what nobody wants to say? The Senate majority means nothing if Hakeem Jeffries is running the floor and the Budget Committee. Nothing.
The Brookings piece made this point clearly. The redistricting advantage is real, but its actual electoral impact remains uncertain heading into November. That's not pessimism, that's just what the evidence supports.
Honest, which is rare. So here's your watch list. Florida appellate courts, Alabama federal suits, and every open seat Republican district where there's no incumbent to carry the name. That's the race. That's where 2027 gets decided.
Keep your eyes on the House.
All right, that's the show. Bottom line, the House is where 2026 is actually decided, and the Callais ruling reshuffled every map on the board.
And what stuck with me is the math we ran. Democrats need 3 seats. Republicans can lose 2. That's not a comfortable majority. That's a tightrope.
Gavel Watch is live, people, and those redistricted maps are still being litigated as we speak. This story isn't over.
It won't be over in 2026, honestly. The fallout runs into 2028.
Which means I'll be here, covering all of it.
Thanks for spending your time with us today. If this episode made you think differently about where the real power fight is, that's what we're after.
Subscribe, leave us a 5-star review, and send this to one person who needs to hear it. New episodes every weekday.
See you tomorrow, Rush.
See you then.